Hey guys, Danny Singson here. Hey, if you're watching this overview, and if I gave this link to you or someone else gave this link to you just to watch on how we serve people out there in our firm, you're going to be in for a treat because I'm going to go over how we actually help people eliminate risk, fees, and taxes in the way they save, the way they plan for their future, with regards to their personal finance. So if you're watching this from your phone or your laptop or your computer in your car, in your bedroom, this day and age, people definitely appreciate the convenience of being able to do things on the go or at home or remotely. So with that being said, I'm going to dive right in if you don't mind. And I'm going to cover all these details and hopefully you stay with me to the end. It's okay if you don't. You'll definitely gain some value here for sure that you probably haven't learned in school or have been taught growing up. I know I certainly haven't. So I believe that you're going to get a lot of value. And that's really my intention, is to give you value. Okay. So let me dive right into my slide deck. I want to share with you some visuals here. So welcome to Xtreme One Financial. We are the #1 financial brokerage in our space when it comes to personal finance. And again, we absolutely completely separate ourselves from your typical advisor or money manager, because what we're doing is extremely specialized. And this is not new things. We're basically bringing the 1% knowledge to the 99% of the population, guys. And for most people, they are so relieved that there's actually solutions out there for them to fix their problems. And sometimes most people didn't even realize they had a problem. We're the #1 financial brokerage in our space here. Currently, we're located and headquartered in the San Francisco Bay Area. And the beauty of even recent times is we've been able to expand our operations nationally. So we're in many, many states right now. And our core values, as you're seeing here on the screen, is commitment, excellence, and integrity. And we believe very, very much in that because we are committed to serve. We operate with the utmost excellence as far as the outcome and solutions for our clients. And then also, I believe very heavily in integrity. Transparency and integrity is very, very important, especially when it comes to planning for future, especially when it's going over things and maybe a subject matter that is maybe convoluted or kind of complicated. So therefore, most people put this subject matter on the back burner. Okay. So I want to just dive right in. This is our website here. It's actually in progress. So if you go to this particular domain name, which is extremeonefinancial.com, Xtreme with an X and then the #1, you'll see that it is parked. So if you're watching this and you actually go there, you'll see that it's in maintenance. We're doing a lot of upgrades. We're completely revamping the website, a lot of bells and whistles. If for some of you guys that are watching this, this might already be live and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of user functionality, a lot of experiences, a lot of interaction on the website. We're all very, very excited, but I want to let you guys know that this right now is almost in full production and it's almost complete. So we're very, very excited about this website. It's going to be very, very user-friendly for clients and also our agents, people on the business side of what we're doing. And this is going to be a tool and resource for you guys. Okay. So just give you guys an awareness of this coming out and launching very, very soon. I want to dive right in as to who this is for. Okay. This overview is for those who want a serious advantage. Like I mentioned earlier, like the top 1% of people in the world with their personal finance. This is for those who want to learn the real truth, like the real deal truth of how to completely eliminate risk, fees, restrictions, and taxes. That's a big one, okay? To their hard-earned money and what you would gain as a result, okay? This is for those who want actual clarity on how to tap into hundreds of thousands or even millions of available tax-free dollars without having to dive into your own pockets and assets if you ever become critically ill or sick or injured or anything like that. This is for those who do not know exactly how to overcome what we call the hope and pray strategy when it comes to their money. And a lot of people don't really know that even if this subject matter is something that maybe is something that you're familiar with, you've been around it, you talk to colleagues, coworkers, maybe even advisors. So maybe this might be something that's on the forefront of your mindset. But ultimately, I'm going to show you that a lot of these strategies that are given to the masses, they are really nothing more than a hope and pray strategy, because in the world of investing and hoping for the best, right? Those aren't guarantees. Those aren't things that you can feel certain about, which the truth is most people have to work until they die. So that is not a scenario that most people think about all the time, but that's honest to God. That's really what's the reality for most people. And we're going to give some clarity on how to fix those issues. Okay. This is also for those who believe that it does matter where you park money and how you save it. And for those who want to keep the most amount of money in your pocket versus someone else's pocket, if all of this resonates with you, this overview is absolutely for you. Now, if none of this resonates with you and you're like, man, this is not me. Like, I'm not even concerned about any of these things. No problem. I'm going to save you some time. You can shut this overview off now and just hit stop and just thank the person that gave it to you and communicate. Okay. Communicate that, hey, this is not for me. And so hopefully you can appreciate that I'm saving you a whole lot of time just to stop at this point. Okay. But if this is you, then definitely listen to the very, very end, because I believe you're definitely getting a lot of value out of this. Okay, for sure. Now, here's what we're going to cover, guys. How to completely eliminate yourself from risk, fees, and taxes. We're going to cover how to avoid being sheep herded, like I was saying earlier, like the 99% of the population. We're going to cover what the 1%ers have been doing for almost a century, guys. The things that I'm going to go over with you in this overview, these aren't new concepts. This might be new to you, but these aren't new concepts simply because our society and our system is not generated to teach and empower people to have these kinds of strategies. It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately, which it did. Okay. We're going to cover how to insure your income with living benefits. I'm going to ask you a question. Has anyone ever taught you how to insure your money? If that's a new concept for you, definitely you're going to get some value here at no extra cost, by the way. If you ever get critically ill or injured and you can't even work, have you ever thought about that? Like, what would happen if you just couldn't perform at your job tomorrow? What securities do you have in place to take care of yourself financially? Okay, we're going to cover that. We're also going to cover how to transfer a significant amount of tax-free dollars or even leave your family a legacy, that oftentimes will even surpass your current net worth as you are sitting here today, and being able to do that so you never have to financially burden your loved ones, your wife, your husband, or even your children. Okay. Now, I'm also going to talk about in this overview, that these strategies are things that aren't offered or talked about by a lot of different firms out there. And it's not because we're some secret society or anything like that. It's just that we have an absolute specialty. Right? A lot of people that dive into conversations about their finance, their money, their retirement strategies, they're speaking with generalists versus specialists. Does that make sense? Right? There's a big difference. When someone says, hey, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that too. Well, yeah, you know what? I got you covered. I can do that. I'm going to tell you right up front, right? If people are looking to expose themselves to risk and gamble with money they typically can't afford, we're not your guys. Okay. We're typically helping people. We've helped thousands, hundreds, if not thousands of people over the years by helping them eliminate these risk, fees, and taxes and putting them in a better situation than when they walked in. Okay. So my promise to you in this overview is you're going to get a lot of clarity on how we actually help people. We're going to help people understand that you don't have to have risk as part of your retirement strategies. You don't have to have fees or even taxes as part of your future. Like, what are you saying, Danny? Right? And I'm talking about all legal stuff. Okay. These are things that honestly, I really would have wished that I've learned 20, even 30 years ago. Okay. So let me ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a series of questions here, and you tell me if any of this sounds like you. Do you ever feel that the super wealthy and rich have an unfair advantage and are taught things you will never learn? Have you ever thought to yourself, there's got to be a better way to save for my future or retirement? Do you ever wonder what would happen to you financially if you could no longer physically work anymore? Are you worried that you might have to work until you die? That's kind of correlating with the hope and pray strategy. And if people really pay attention to that kind of stuff, they start to perk up and they're like, man, this is really serious. Like this, I never thought about these things. And the unfortunate thing about this is that we all should be thinking about this stuff because it really does matter, right? Do you ever worry about running out of money and fear that you'll never be able to stop working? Do you ever wonder how to pass on real wealth to your family? A lot of people think that you have to be wealthy in order to pass on wealth. It's not necessarily true. What most people don't understand is that they haven't learned how to leverage where they save money, where they park money, right? And the strategies that they use to transfer, a legacy to their family. Let me ask you, did you ever wish that they taught the real deal truth about money and the impact of fees and taxes growing up in school, so you never have to experience the tragedies of loss and scarcity? Let me ask you, have you ever secretly thought to yourself, damn, imagine how much money I'd still have if I didn't have to pay as much in taxes? If any of these questions hit you like they did when I asked myself, this is definitely the overview that's going to make some game-changing revelations for you. I know for sure you're going to have a few epiphanies. Okay. So let me introduce myself real quick. Again, I'm Danny Singson here. I'm the founder of Xtreme One Financial. And I wanted to share with you transparency, how people can get a hold of me or in touch with me. These are some pictures here of me doing a lot of trainings and whatnot. I'm often asked to speak in different events, venues. And, my former life, I was in law enforcement, guys. I was in law enforcement for about 19 years, right? So I was a cop, literally, since I was like 20 years old. I retired at 38. Some of you guys are like, really? How the hell you do that? You're not old enough. Here's the thing. Most people think that retirement's about age. It's really not. Retirement's not about age, guys. It's about income, period. And so long story short, I just didn't want to end up like the guys that were at the end of my career path. Can you relate to that? If you don't like what you see at the end of your career path, newsflash, that's going to be you unless you change something. So that was what really drove me to be very, very motivated and passionate for the things that I teach people now. So I'm regarded these days as the #1 business coach and financial strategist in our space. And you can follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Definitely you can find me on LinkedIn, guys, because that has, LinkedIn is kind of like your digital business card these days, right? It shows your kind of your resume, your work history. And definitely on Instagram or Facebook as well, right? At Danny Singson 1. Okay, so enough about me. I want to make this overview really about you so you get the most amount of value. All right. So we work with a lot of different carriers. I couldn't fit them all on one screen, but you get the idea. We're a brokerage. And essentially what that means is I don't have any favorites. They're all just kind of tools for us to help people fix their problems financially, right? These are tools in our arsenal to help people solve all the dilemmas that they might have, that most of them don't even realize they even had. So one of the things that we do, guys, is we pay attention to trends. We pay attention to serving, people, even like the baby boomers, right? If you're a baby boomer and you were born between 1946 to 64, this probably would look familiar. Let me just tell you guys, okay? Take it from Warren Buffett. If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you're gonna work till you die. And it's not just creating a business, guys. It's also creating a platform that you can have income. And so unfortunately, pensions are a thing of the past. Very few professions and people out there actually are sitting pretty with a pension because, believe it or not, financial services and companies, it's not good business to offer people a percentage of their salary until they die, because these days people are living longer. So it's bad business. People aren't dying soon, right? Like they used to be, right? So if you were in the baby boomer generation, or if you are in the baby boomer generation, this might look familiar. These folks here, they stay at their jobs, right, for 30 years. They have what I like to call institutional sheep herding products, right? These are your 401ks. These are your 403bs, your 457s. If you work for the government, these are your TSPs, right? And now at the end of the career path, in order for them to touch that money, they have to do what we call a rollover. Okay. They have to do this. But the problem is that a lot of people, you know what they do? They roll over from one risky instrument or one risky financial product to yet another risky financial product. They don't ever put themselves in a better, more strategic, safer position, right? They just are offered the same service from the same companies that, you know, their employer has a relationship with, and they never hear about any of their other options that, you know, typically a lot of the one percenters that I've talked to and met and helped over the years, they don't do this stuff. But let me just share with you something that's very, very familiar with you. You guys know this already. You got to roll it over, right? But here's what we're actually helping people do. Now, when we help people do this, okay, this is simply just a parking position. Your money is here and you got to park it here, right? In order to monetize that 401k, you have to park it here in some kind of IRA or annuity, and then you can pull money out. But now when we help people with this kind of rollover, guys, we can offer them what we call a guarantee. It's not a guarantee return on interest. It's a guarantee no loss to principal. It's called a floor. So if you're watching my video here, follow along for a second. If the market is going up and down, and it starts to tank and starts to dive, you know, past this bottom point right here, what's happening to your money if your money is sitting in that particular instrument? You're right. It's going to go down with it. Does that make sense? Right? So stock market up and down starts to go like this. Your money's going down with the market. Now, with a guarantee, the guarantee applies to protecting your principal. So if the market's going up and down, and it starts to crash like this again, boom, guess what? It starts to hit this, boom. Now it hits your, what we call the guarantee floor. Now, for those of you guys, I'm going to share a little story here. This is what I helped mom with about maybe 6-7 years ago. Guys, I walked into, I'm going to tell you a little story here. I walked into her house in the Sunset District in San Francisco. And by the way, she's my only parent. I lost my father when I was very, very young. And at the time, my mother was in her mid-70s. And I walked into her house, visiting her on a Sunday. I'll never forget this. And she was sitting at the edge of her bed, reading a statement. And I walked in on her and I caught her profusely crying to herself. I mean, not tearing, like sobbing. And that day I learned that mom lost over $200,000 in the market. And I watched her look at this statement and say to me, you know what, son, this is all the money in the world to me. My mom comes from a hairdresser background, right? So all I never, saw her doing growing up was fix hair. She doesn't come from money. And that was devastating to me. I was like very, very hurt with her. We literally hugged for about a good 5 minutes solid, and I was crying with her. Let me ask you, how would you feel if you walked in on your own mother, right? In tears, devastated, losing that much money in the market. From that point forward, I vowed that will never happen again to someone I cared about and loved. So this is where this passion and energy and motivation stems from. And then from that point forward, right, I became the guy in my law enforcement circles, in nursing, in the fire departments, all this good stuff. And that's kind of how it all started, right? So that's the story about my mom and how I helped her. And moving forward, here's the thing. When we rolled her funds over from one institution to the next, guess what? She now has a guarantee floor, protecting her principal. So moving forward, right? It doesn't restrict her from earning gains in the market, but now because she has a protection to her money, she now has a floor or guarantee where she'll never lose a penny ever along the way. How good do you think I felt helping mom, right? What about lifetime income? We teach people how to generate lifetime income. If you haven't learned, right, how to actually create lifetime income strategies, because no one's ever talked to you about that, I can understand why, right? You're definitely going to get some value here because you're already behind if you don't even know what I'm talking about. Trust me. Okay. Bonus. Let me share with you a story about my sister, right? My sister, ladies, if you're watching this, if you're a woman watching this, you are familiar with the company Sephora, right? You guys all heard of Sephora, the makeup company. She's been there for about 18, 19 years, pretty high level manager. And, around the same time, she had the same issue, right? She was looking at the volatility of her money just kind of sitting around in different places. And she had saved I'll use another example. She had saved about a couple $100,000 sitting in a CD/checking account. Let me ask you, is she making money with her money sitting in a CD/checking account? She's not. I call that mattress money, right? So what I did is I helped her roll or repark those funds into another IRA or annuity where she got a guarantee protecting her principal. Okay. So here's the thing. My sister also got a 5% bonus just to do it. I don't know if you guys know this, but that's how financial institutions incentivize people to park their money with them. And it's just pretty standard, right? She got a 5% bonus just to do it. 5% of 200,000, that was $10,000. She literally looked at her statement. She was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you, brother. I didn't even know I could do this or have this much money injected into my account." Okay. And then last but not least, fees. Okay. Now, here's the thing. There's no free lunch, but there's no more money management fees. Did you guys know that a 1% fee attached to your money over the course of like 20 to 25 years, that would actually erode your investment or your retirement funds by literally up to 10 years? Did you guys know that? It's crazy. Most people, where their money is sitting, whether it's in a 401k or IRA, did you guys know that most people are paying in fees, literally 3 to 3.5%? Guys, and a lot of people think that those little fees don't erode their money over time. That's a lot of money. You're losing 10 years of actual spendable net cash flow in the years that matter or should matter the most to you. Now, also too, many people believe that saving is all about saving a lump sum. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, you have $400,000 sitting in your 401k. Can you picture that? Many of you guys would be like, "Wow, I've done pretty good. I'm pretty excited." Here's the thing. We all agree that we're living longer these days, right? And so most people are going to be in their retirement years for quite a bit of time, for at least 20 years. In order for you to net 400,000 in your 401k or IRA, you would have had to earn, right, $700,000 to $800,000 just to net 400 because you haven't paid fees or taxes on that yet. Does that make sense? Okay. But let me give you the benefit of the doubt. Okay. Let's say you do have $400,000 sitting in your 401k or your IRA somewhere sitting around, and that was your net. Here's the problem that most people haven't even thought of. That money has to last for at least 20 years in your retirement, right? Because you're no longer working, so you're not bringing in income and you don't have a pension. Guess what? If you do the math, that $400,000 divided by 20 years, that's only worth $20,000 a year in income. Does that sound exciting? That's not really exciting. Does that make sense? So most people have this big misconception that if I save a lump sum of money, that's going to be the answer. And unfortunately, $41 trillion are going to be rolling from one risky account to yet another risky account, all on the premise of, hey, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket, which we know is not the truth as we get older anymore. It's not the truth anymore. And this also is on the premise that saving a lump sum of money is going to be the answer for me to stop working. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Would you guys agree that things evolve, right? Everything evolves. Like, for example, Uber. If I said, hey, if you had a choice to take an Uber or a taxi, which one would you choose? You're probably thinking, why would I ever take a taxi? Can you imagine how awkward it would be if we were out to dinner and I said, hey, can you give me a 20-minute heads up for what, Danny? So I can call a taxi. Would you look at me weird? Because I would look at me weird. I'm like, this guy's weird, right? No one would, most people these days would never even think about taking a taxi if they had the option. Make sense? Fashion. That also has evolved, right? Decor, furniture, medicine, care, technology. By the way, including financial services, guys. Everything evolves. And with that evolution, guys, let me have you walk you through this scenario here. Let's take, for example, let's just say hypothetically, Mary has a typical life insurance policy. You guys follow me on this, right? Mary, imagine Mary, $500,000 of normal life insurance. Humor me for 1 second. What has to happen to Mary in order for her family or beneficiaries to receive that money? The answer's on the screen, by the way. So that's a hint. You're right. She's got to die. Does that make sense? Okay. So here's the thing. That hasn't changed in over 100 years. But because financial services and strategies have also evolved, guess what? Because of that evolution, Mary doesn't even have to die anymore. If Mary needed long-term care, if she got cancer, heart attack, stroke, sickness, some type of critical illness or injury, guess what? Mary doesn't have to die. Now, Mary has $500,000 that she can utilize over her head while she's alive. That is called a living benefit. So effectively, she's able to convert a death benefit into a living benefit that she can use while she's alive. And quite frankly, guys, if you haven't upgraded maybe a policy or an insurance policy that you have over your head that's not accessible to you right now while you're alive, it's old. Can I be honest? It hasn't evolved. All right. So that is a huge evolution. We talked about the 401k, right? We talked about the high risk, right? The fees, the taxes, the restrictions. You can't touch your money to your 59 and a half. If you do, you got to pay penalties. You got to pay it back with interest. And there's no guarantee that you'll even have any money when you're ready to take it out. Imagine if you're 30 years old, okay? And you just started your career and someone says, your coworker, your HR says, hey, you know what? You should put your money in your 401k, right? Like again, this is the institutional sheep herding concept, all right? And blindly, people just follow suit, not knowing the risk, the fees, the taxes, the restrictions. You're literally putting your money in money jail, all right? For 30 years, if you're age 30, starting your career, because now it's locked up, okay? Here's the new normal. Now, you don't have to do that. And these aren't new concepts, guys. The new normal is when you save money, you can have a guarantee protecting your principal, okay? You can also not subject your hard-earned money to all of those fees that erode your investments. No age limit to touch your money, no restrictions or penalties to access your money, no penalties whatsoever. Well, how's that possible? Well, you've only been taught maybe one way. So I can understand why you're thinking, gosh, I've never heard of it. No problem. Just because you haven't heard of it, it doesn't mean that the one percenters haven't been implementing this strategy for a long time, right? Did you guys know that most people that are professional athletes, NFL, coaches, high-level execs, right? They're already implementing these strategies. And would you agree that those types of individuals, right, maybe high net worth individuals, would you guys agree that they're probably consulted a little bit differently than you are, right? Than the average person is consulted? Yeah, they are. Absolutely. Right. And also the new standard is 100% tax free. If there was a way to circumvent IRS legally, I might add, okay, should you pay attention and should that matter to you? And the answer is yes, it should matter. That's easily shaving off 30 to 40% of money that you should be keeping in your pocket versus giving it away to Uncle Sam. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So now there's over 300 million people in our country, right, doing things the old way with old policies, old contracts, 401ks, IRAs, things like that. Again, it's the hope and pray strategy. Here's what it looks like. Here's a very simple diagram of what the old way looks like. And I call it the old way. It's really the current way, but it's the old way because most people don't realize that there is a lot of room to evolve. Check this out. If you have your money in an IRA or Roth or 401k, 457, 403b, even TSPs if you work for the government, okay? The number one thing is that you're gambling with your own money. You're gambling. You're exposed to risk, a lot of fees, and a lot of taxes. You have a lot of restrictions on you being able to access your money, a lot of penalties involved, no living benefits to protect your income while you're alive in the event that you get some kind of, critical illness, cancer, heart attack, stroke, something happens to you and you can no longer physically work. Most people, you know what they're doing? They're cashing out their 401ks. They're diving into their home equity. They're diving into their checking accounts. They're looking under the mattress. Bottom line is you got to be able to leverage. And then last but not least, this is absolutely the hope and pray strategy. Here's a question for you. How much more money, hard-earned money, are you willing to lose, right? And so when I ask people that question, I go, hey, how much money in your 401k are you willing to lose? And they say, well, nothing. Well, objectively, then your money's in the wrong place. Does that make sense? Because it's not even possible with your money sitting in a 401 or even an IRA or a similar product for you to protect yourself from volatility. Gone are those days. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, here's some kind of media stuff that's been right beneath your nose over the years. Check out this 2002 coverage, front page cover of Time magazine. It literally says, will you ever be able to retire? These are real big issues. And so a lot of people, they miss these things because they're so focused and they're so distracted, staying in their lane, doing their job, and then, TGIF on the Fridays, right? And then spending time with their families, taking vacations. They don't realize that there's a slow financial death that's happening. Check this out, 2005 cover magazine of Time magazine, right? The great ripoff or the great retirement ripoff. These are real things. I didn't know about these even though I was around working myself back then too. But now that I've really, really dove into these things, I start to see all of these things that we've missed over the years. How about this? This is in 2009, front page cover of Time magazine. It says, why it's time to retire the 401k. Now, if you don't remember this article, right, that made the front cover of Time, it's because you didn't think that this applied to you. Let me tell you, it really does. This really does apply to you. Okay. So let me share with you what the new way sounds like. Okay. If you don't have to put your money at risk, and if you thought that was the only way to save for your future, then I'm glad you're learning this now. All right. You've never learned how to safeguard your money so that you never lose a penny. These actually things are things that you can change just like that. No one has ever taught you how to insure your money with living benefits while you're alive, so you don't deplete any of your own money. Okay. If you worry about paying taxes with your income, no one has ever taught you how to grow your money tax-free and even access it tax-free without penalties or restrictions. That's huge, guys. That is huge. Liquidity, that's what most people worry about, right? Locking their money up or tying it up over time, because what happens if you have an emergency or something like that happens? You want to make sure that not only can you safeguard your principal, grow tax-free, access tax-free, there's some level of liquidity attached to access as well. Okay. Take a look at this diagram. Okay. LIRP, if you were to Google this right now, stands for Life Insurance Retirement Plan. Why insurance? Did you guys know that's the bedrock foundation of all financial planning? That's what that's what all companies stand on their foundation with. Okay. Very conservative industry. They're not in the stock market. Okay. Here's the thing. LIRP, if you were to Google that, you'll find, right, all kinds of different articles and explanations and definitions. And the biggest difference here is that when you save money here, you can actually protect your principal. You can grow and access your money tax-free without fees. Okay, eroding your investment over time. And we talked about that, right? We talked about how impactful fees are. A 1% fee, remember that? 1% can erode your investment by up to 10 years in retirement. That's a lot. No restrictions, no penalties. Okay, now built in, you have living benefits. Okay, these are really, really big concepts for a lot of people. And people think that they're new. They're not new. You know, Walt Disney used this particular strategy to build and open up Disneyland. I don't know if you know this, right? And there's many others. Now, when you're saving and planning for your future, you can finally have certainty. Okay. You can finally figure out how to build income for life and then take care of your family and transfer, right, a legacy to your family tax-free. But the question is, how much longer can you afford not to evolve? I really want you to process that, because that is something that most people are unwilling to face, because it's a hard question to answer. Take a look at this, breaking down life's financial puzzle. If you die too soon, if you become ill, or you live too long, there are solutions for this. And it's not always just digging out of your own pockets. Take a look at this article here at ESPN. If you guys know who Jim Harbaugh is, I mean, I'm native of the San Francisco Bay Area. He's the former head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. And when he got contracted with the University of Michigan, number one, he became the top paid coach in the nation. And they used an LIRP, a LIRP. They used an insurance pension plan to not only negotiate his salary, but to negotiate his deferred compensation for retirement. Okay. What about this right here? It says, this is a Forbes article. It says how to use insurance in your retirement planning. I just took a snapshot of this article here. I'm just going to read a little blip of it. Investing in the market without taking losses. Is it too good to be true? Not according to the University of Michigan's coach, Jim Harbaugh. In August, University of Michigan helped Harbaugh become the top paid college football coach in the nation by creating a deferred compensation plan or package utilizing a cash value life insurance. These aren't new concepts. Okay. So let's go over a quick recap here before we end. So now at this point, here's what we know. We know that saving a lump sum of money means absolutely nothing if you're exposed to risk, fees, and taxes. We also know how to avoid being sheep herded, right? Like the 99% of the population. And if they can just stop repeating the old ways, okay, that's not solving any problems. We talked about implementing the strategies of the top 1% and then start implementing what we call the new ways, right? That gives you a very serious advantage so that you can keep at least 30 to 40% of your hard-earned income away from fees and taxes. Okay. Not only that, if you're removing fees and taxes, not only do you keep more money, at least 30 to 40%, but you're going to extend how much money you'll have to actually use when you do actually retire. Okay. We also covered how to transfer a significant amount of tax-free legacy or dollars to your family that oftentimes will surpass even your own current net worth or assets today, so that you are never financially burdening your family if and when you pass away. Okay. So now you have a choice. You can either take this information and say, hey, that was pretty cool, Danny. That was kind of, pretty trivial, nice, right? You could take this information, do nothing with it, and no problem. Okay. No problem. and you can stay kind of right where you're at and not fix any of these issues or problems that you have financially, or you can learn to compress time frames. You can learn to safeguard yourself from volatility, risk, fees, taxes. And you can finally start to have clarity and certainty in your future. Because when you're talking to someone that is an actual specialist versus a generalist, don't be mad at your advisors, and don't be mad at your, tax or tax consultants or CPAs, and start asking them questions. They may or may not. Most likely, they're not going to know. It's not their specialty. Does that make sense? Right? Not only is it not their specialty, most of them don't even have the right licenses to be able to even dive into these things to share with you the personal finance picture on the insurance side of finances. Most people are giving consultation on the variable or the risk related side of finance. So I hope by watching this overview, I gave you some value. And definitely the person that gave you this overview, get back to them. If it was with me, we probably already have an appointment in the calendar to go over your takeaways and any questions that you might have. So with that being said, hope you guys got some value watching this, and I look forward to chatting with you very soon. Take care.